Coming to you live from the Business RadioX studio, it's Franchise Marketing Radio, brought to you by IDS, an award-winning digital marketing agency that delivers integrated marketing solutions for franchisors, franchisees, and franchise development teams. Learn why over 75 brands depend on IDS's team of dedicated marketers and client service professionals to deliver a strong ROI on their marketing investment. Go to idsfranchisemarketing.com for a complimentary digital audit and consultation.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Franchise Marketing Radio. I'm your host, Rob Ganley, and we are the show that bring you inspiring conversations with industry leaders and franchise experts. There is no exception. I have a very special guest. She is the president and founder of Mantra Fitness. Please welcome Kathy Covington. Welcome to the show, Kathy.
Thank you, Rob.
It's great to have you. It's great to have you on. So, I like to jump right in and just start with, tell us a little bit about Mantra Fitness. How did that come to be? And, tell us a little bit about your background.
Okay. I guess it's hard to condense all that into one little tiny conversation because Mantra has been a culmination of years of hard work and passion that have gone into the business to grow it. But we are a boutique Pilates studio. We specialize in a high intensity, low impact version of Pilates. And we have not small, I say, our footprint is about 1,650 square feet to 2,000 square foot studios with machines that we use that are called the X-Former. It's basically a hybrid of the Pilates Reformer. And so the entire workout is done on that machine. So Mantra came about when I started doing this workout. It's a unique form of Pilates when I was living in Southern California. And, started working out in a studio that was practicing this method and just fell in love with the workout. It was something I had done that was actually gave me great results that I'd never gotten from a workout before. And I had never always been in fitness. It's not my background. I was, business background, but always enjoyed fitness, enjoy the outdoors. And so when I tried this workout, it kind of just it worked for my body. So that's kind of the entryway of how I got into this method of Pilates. I don't want to, I guess the question's so open, I'm not sure where to head with.
Yeah, no, that helps because I guess what and you kind of opened the door a little bit. I wanted to find out, tell me a little bit about what makes you unique in that regard, because I know what you said was very profound, what you were just saying, very casually. So getting results from something in fitness is interesting because me too. I've been on and off in my adult life, but I definitely am more on the last, say, 10 years. And I love outdoors and I love fitness and I love being able to do things that require fitness, right? But being able to notice something that says, wow, that really did work. That really is helpful. That really move the needle for me and my lifestyle, whatever that is, wherever you're starting from. That's hard to find, I think. And I was wondering is there any science or is there anything, like you said, and you also say you're a little different than your traditional Pilates. So tell me a little bit let's dig into that. What makes you unique and how did you, it sounds like you discovered it over a process.
Yeah. So I guess I'm, kind of going back into the whole story. So I started doing this workout and, I've done pretty much, anything and everything over the, the course of that time period. I was in my early 40s when I started doing this method. And this one definitely was unique. It was special. It was Pilates, which I had never done reformer Pilates before. So I really didn't understand, what was exactly Pilates. I always thought, well, was this workout that's probably kind of boring because I was used to high intensity HIIT training. That was what I felt worked for me before. Not that it worked. It was what I was interested in because it kept my attention. I was like, yeah, I can do kickboxing or can go running. I was a big runner too. All these things, they were good. I was always in shape, but this workout, when I did it, I was like, wow, this is special. And at the time I was doing a lot of horseback riding, a hunter jumper. And so I would come in, I would drop my son off at school. He was going to a school right next to the studio and I would drop him off at school and then I would go ride my horse. And I was noticing when I was riding that I was just doing a lot better with jumping. And I So, and I was like, is it just me getting better? And I kind of related it to the workout. So my balance and my flexibility and my athletic ability were improving at the same time that I was doing this workout. So the two kind of all came together. It was very unexpected, but that really drew me into this method of Pilates that I just had never known about before. So that was the initial draw. Was just the results I saw in my body. And then as I started doing the workout more and more, I just was like, wow, this is really neat how all these people are coming into this small studio. They'd give a class and then everybody would leave. And it was this new concept that was kind of coming into being right around the time like Orange Theory was starting out, Pure Barre was starting out. And it was this, it was the start of the really beginning of the boutique fitness kind of craze. And so the business model that I saw kind of spoke to me too. I'm like, wow, here's a workout that's highly effective, that's working for my body. And I consider myself a pretty good athlete. So I'm like, if it's working for me, and then they're giving this workout in this environment where it's really starting to promote this idea of like community, right? Because you feel aligned with the people that are in the room. So if you're in a 1,650 square foot room or 2,000 square foot room, and then you have, you're working out with 12 to 14 people and you're all doing the same thing and you're really focused on yourself and your body, but you're doing it amongst other people. It was just really neat. Then you had your trainer, who was leading the entire class. So it was like having a personal trainer in a way on a Pilates machine, you're on your Pilates machine. So the whole way the workout was given and structured was just like, it was intriguing to me. Right. So I like that part too. And in which I later kind of came to find out, wow, there's a whole community aspect to working out, and that, moves more into accountability and showing up and, how all these things were set up. So that was kind of my beginning of the idea of like, wow, this would be a really cool thing to run and do. And as an entrepreneur, I felt inspired by the whole business model of what was happening, right? So something that was actually would work and, worked for other people's bodies, that created this community, right? And then the business model seemed doable. And moving into that too, what I saw early was technology. I know you mentioned you were in technology, and the ability to utilize technology to even in a simple scheduling platform, right? At the time they were using MindBody software, which is now kind of, I don't want to say anything bad, but it's gotten a little bit antiquated. So they were using MindBody, and it was just really easy to go on the app and just schedule your classes. And that was the first time, because usually I was like, oh, you go to a gym, or people weren't used to the online scheduling or downloading an app and being able to schedule a class. So I like that part of the business idea too. It was just easy, right? You can go in, you download your app, you pay, you schedule your class, you show up for class, you got a trainer that's with you the entire workout. It works. It's wonderful. Your body, there's got all these benefits. So all around, I was like, this is really a cool thing to do. And so the more I worked out, the more I fell in love with the method, the more I wanted to know about the method of this type of Pilates, and the more I studied the business model. So that was probably the first year into being around, this version of Pilates, high intensity version of Pilates, that inspired me to keep, progressing and moving forward. So I'm trying to think. So after, I've been working out and doing all this, and I was, inspired by wanting to, open my own business at some point. Didn't know what it was. I didn't have an idea at the time that I would go and become a business owner of a fitness studio. That was never in my thought process. But anyway, so everything kind of just fell into place. And I had reached out to the guy who had founded this particular method, a guy up in LA, and went through his training program and learned more about teaching and got to a deep understanding of the method, which I know you asked me about before, which is really, it's a high intensity version of reformer Pilates. And what it does is you're combining the holistic principles of Pilates, but then in addition, you're adding the cardiovascular element into it. by the way the routine is curated in the machine. So you're adding the cardiovascular, then you're getting your balance, your flexibility, and your strength training, and it's combined all into one workout. So it's basically like a CrossFit on a reformer. And the way the routines are structured and the way you move through the body is unique. And that the classes are 50 minutes long. And during that 50 minutes, you're going to be going through the entire body and working in blocks. So you go start with, however the trainer is curating the routine, but you're going to get through your legs, you're going to get through abs, you're going to get through obliques, and then you're going to get through upper body. And then everything in the workout is done in a really slow 4 count to 8 count. So what the idea is that you start activating what they call your slow twitch, which I'm sure you're familiar with, activating the slow twitch muscle fibers instead of the fast twitch. So the slow twitch are the muscle fibers that will give you that long, lean, a lot of definition, like the small little cut that women typically have, historically wanted. That is a certain look. So that's kind of where the method that we teach and how it's really designed to build a long, lean muscle versus any sort of bulking. So everything's really slow, no impact on the joints at all. So it's a workout that was great because you don't have to, it's not just for, young or old. It's a workout that can be done your entire life, right? Because you're going to get that cardio burn, but you're not going to get that impact on your joints that over time can wear down the joint. And I know for me, as I get older, right, it gets things start breaking down. I'm listening very carefully because I do a lot of high impact stuff in the mountains. I'm near mountains, and I worry about that because I am older, and I am I do love the feeling of working out, and I love being active, but I worry about the impact on my body as I get older and what it means as I'm even older than that, right? Like the residual damage I might be doing, but the idea of being able to do, it sounds like you're getting all the good, right? So maximum, you'll look maximum good. It doesn't take as long. And it hits everything in one shot, which I said, if we get into the business side of things, what I'm hearing you say is you have a community element where you're helping people feel better about themselves, and you're helping them do it in a way that's efficient and doesn't take that much time. Right. But they almost enjoy it anyway, because you have the community element and the process of doing it. So that is sort of like for me, like when it just being a regular person that's gone to, fitness and gyms and different things throughout my life, I've always tried to get into routines and structured systems. And it's hard. I'm not wired that way. So I would need a personal trainer to keep me on track if it was long term. But it seems like this program is sort of built that way. It's like, you can only do this one way when you're around everybody doing it. So everybody's trying to do it the right way, in the right measure, in the right timing. And it's 50 minutes. And then you're done. You got a great workout, period, end. It's not like, you kind of did it halfway that day. Right. So I think that's awesome. That's what makes you a little different. Is your studios, tell me more about the environment and the experience that your customers have being part of Mantra? So for sure. Just going back a little bit. So when I was talking about the boutique fitness craze kind of coming out and watching these studios in California as they kind of took off, that was one thing I did notice. I was like, there wasn't enough. As a business person, I'm like, what could I do to improve on this? Right. There's a great workout. It's a great concept, but what could be better? Right. Because I always want to make something better. And so I saw that there was a need for this community, and communities can come in all sorts of shapes and sizes. And there's different communities for people to feel aligned to. For me personally, for what I wanted and envisioned in a brand, it was a really friendly vibe where it's a vibe. It's where you kind of come in, you're going to feel good. And, if you come in a bad mood, you're going to leave in a good mood. And it spoke a lot about just who I am as a person and my personality. And I wanted to see when somebody walked in the door at a Mantra, right? Like, how am I going to make that person feel special? that they are special, right? We're all special. And so the fact that someone's been able to get off the sofa and come in and try and walk into a new strange place in a small environment where you have 14 people and all eyes are on you and actually do something they haven't ever done before, that's pretty special, right? And so I saw how special that is. And I wanted people to know and feel, right, when they walk in the door at Mantra, that they are that person and they're that special, and that we're there to help them, right? Because I've got a great product, but they don't really understand. People don't understand, how is that product going to help me? But I want them to know, this is how it's going to help you. And you're welcome here. And this is a great place where you don't have to feel ashamed of who you are. Don't be ashamed of your body. Don't be ashamed of where you are in your fitness level, and in life. Come in and, let's do it, because it's a super effective, great workout. So that was kind of the community idea that I wanted, I envisioned for my business. And that's I feel like we've done a good job of creating that environment and aligning people, like-minded people who want to work out and want to be healthy and want to feel that they're in a safe space to do so.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, I think in today's world, community is, the first thing I thought of when you were sharing that was the people listening to our podcast right now, right? Anyone who's trying to improve their life, anyone who's trying to learn more, anyone who wants to become better at what it is that they're doing and or discover new things. That is special, right? Like you're right. And the fact that you think that way already with the brand where it is now, that says a whole lot about your brand, right? Because ultimately, if you think of it that way, right, that affects everything that you're doing, everything with how you train your staff, to the programs you offer, to all the little side things like the app or different technologies you might be using as well, right, to build that community. But really making people realize, look, you're stepping up right now, right? You want to be better. You want to be around people that are doing something you're not doing, right, and improve your life. And I think that there's always a positive outcome to that. But that's an important distinction when you think about culture, right? Where you think about the brand. What is the brand? What is the culture, really? And I think I don't want to speak for you, but I think that was an amazing way to look at it, is that it's about helping people that are already special realize how special they are. give them the resources to go further. But anyway, I thought that was cool the way you look at it, and it affects. How does that affect your culture and your brand in your mind? Like, how will you carry that through the brand now?
You mean moving forward with community culture?
With that type of mindset where you make sure every guest feels special and that they're doing something unique with their life.
Yeah. So as a brand, and now kind of moving into the business side of it, it's a lot of who we hire, attitude. What is, if we're bringing somebody in to work as a trainer or work, as part of our team, what kind of person are they? Positive, negative. We're looking for people that share in that similar sort, and that feel the same way and about other people and wanting to help and serve others. In stepping outside of just looking at themselves, but really looking at how can we help our customer and how can we make them special. So the training that we do for in training franchisees of what are you looking for when you're hiring an employee, and how do we hire an employee, or how do we hire a trainer, and how do we train them, right? So that's part of kind of instilling that culture moving forward. And just how I've, I guess it's kind of, we've rolled it out in the beginning from the first studio, creating that culture, and then into the second, and then into the third, and then, now into the fourth, and tweaking it along the way. And it's just really, it's become, I feel like, a big part of how we bring on new staff and the people that we put in, in front.
Exactly. Yeah. You start with the end in mind. And, you have that sort of simplicity, right? I find in most franchise brands, right? And folks like yourself, they keep it simple, right? But it's very profoundly simple. It came with a lot of effort and refinement over time, but it's really, if we have one thing we think of every day, right? We can only take so much in this crazy world we're in. So, but what is that one thing? And if you thought one thing every time you went to work is, I want to help the customers feel special, if you just remembered that statement, that's the simplicity of that. That's powerful, right? Because it changes the way you interact. It changes the way you think about your job and the people around you. So I think bravo on that thought process. I think that's amazing. And I just never heard it put that way. But I've heard people like coaches or other people in other professions say, hey, if you just showed up to get better right now, you're already special, right? I've heard people say that. I felt the same thing when you said that. Like if they just show up for the first time, that already shows something about that person, right? Which is cool to think about.
Another thing that I found that we've, I've done, and I've, it kind of brings it out among our team and the staff is we, every week we talk about how somebody's life that's changed or these positive moments over the week. And we share them, like somebody came in and has made a new friend and they, we've had there's all sorts of wonderful stories that, that become very rewarding as an owner. But when you see a lifelong friendship that somebody makes in the studio, and now they've, they came in alone and, walking in, tiptoeing into this workout, and then all of a sudden they've left with the best friend and it's changed their life. And then for me, and I'm not on the locations all the time, but when I go into a location to have the gratitude that you get from a customer of thank you, you've changed my life. Little simple things like that. You're like, okay, that's why I do it. That's what makes it worth it at the end of the day, because it's, the business side can be tough. And, we have, complaints here and there and not bad, just more like, oh, my auto pay or this, or,
yeah.
backside of the business. But, it's, the other part is very rewarding. So I think that kind of keeps feeding the community, right? When you give positive and then you get positive back, you're able to give more positive. And it's just this kind of flow that happens in these communities that start up, like, each studio being its own community. It's putting that flow into place of positivity. And I give it and I receive it and I give it and I receive it. And it just starts rolling.
Yeah, that's very cool. That's very cool. A lot of positive momentum there. So from a business standpoint, right? We talk a lot in franchising. You said a lot of really powerful things in the sense that if I'm running a business, it's probably something, I want to make great money. I want to make a good profit. But I always think of Apple, okay? Everybody knows who Apple is. And when I think of their products, now I do use some Apple products and I use lots of products, but I love their products. I love their packaging. They go way out of their way to try to deliver a certain experience with their products. And so one thing I learned about them is that they charge for it. So in other words, as a business owner, if I want to make an impact in my community and I really want to change lives, I got to charge for it, right? It's got to, I got to look at it that way. In other words, I want to run a really good business, have a really good company, a really good brand, because I'll get really good results for people. And that's the importance of that. So if you have a great product that changes lives, the money part can take care of itself, right? Mm-hmm. I always say one thing about marketing a business like yours is, really comes from the product. Like if people love the product and the experience, what are they going to do? They're going to talk about it. And that's probably one of the first and foremost best ways to grow a local business. But tell me a little bit about, now I know you're an emerging brand. You have a few locations now. So you've done this a few times. Tell us a little bit about if we were interested in getting started, as a franchisee, tell us a little bit about that launch process and a little bit about that, that support process as you go through getting people going and being the person you're just describing, being the owner of this positive momentum that you just talked about. But tell us a little bit about how that launch and that ongoing support works.
So, this is our, we just franchised. So we're just coming, coming out into the franchise world now, offering our product and our process to other entrepreneurs. But, like going into how we, operate on a corporate level, our stores, and then moving into now as a franchisor, I would say it's kind of moved me into the same area of like, what's my passion and what's my purpose in franchising. Right. So, and for me, it's really to share what I've gotten over the last 12 years of doing this was this incredible business, right, that I've been able to build for my team, and for myself, right? It's brought me a lot of rewards in life that I wouldn't have had I not started it. And so it's become for me a really a way to share with others. And I'm not singling out women, but particularly women entrepreneurs out there who maybe don't have the background or don't have the setup or don't have everything that it takes to just start a brand new brand and launch a brand, right? But so now I have this brand. I'm never perfecting anything because I'm always learning and always growing, but I've perfected it to the point where I'm able to now teach it, right? So now I can go out and I can teach somebody. And what I want to do is teach somebody, here's how I did it. Here's what I do. And I want to help them do the same thing that I did. So that's kind of the process now for me with for getting the first couple of franchises open is really, going forward with the brand, but really being able to help those entrepreneurs come in, feel supported, and feel like they are in a community of other entrepreneurs and amongst a team that's going to really help them get launched and get going. Success is important to me, right? Like I don't like to fail. And of course, it's one thing when I take a risk, because if I did fail, I'm not going to fail, but if I did fail, it comes on me. Now I feel a huge sense of responsibility to bring in. And that's why the move into franchising was very well thought out for me, because I had, I was like, what if they fail? What if what if somebody else fails and that's on my shoulders? That's a bigger burden than myself. So my goal is to not only help other female entrepreneurs, but my goal is to really support that person and I can't make anybody anything, but is best to my ability, be able to make them successful the way that I've been successful. So, and
I think it's a special time when you're emerging like you are, for anybody that gets involved early. It's a great opportunity to work very closely with yourself and everybody that's part of your team now that's been doing this for a while, to have that opportunity to be part of a brand early on, right? There's advantages later on too, but there's advantages early on. And I think, but Amy, tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I was going to say too, going through the franchise process, it's been it's been really neat because we've involved, I have a partner and the staff, I've involved them in the whole process. So it's like we have a little team that we've built together and we're all aligned and moving in the same direction. So bringing on new franchisees, we've got a common goal. And we're all aligned with how we're going to help that franchisee be successful and why it's so important. Not only our purpose in helping others, but also making sure they're successful and making sure the brand is successful.
Yeah. It's paying it forward in a big way. So, part of it is, hey, I have this vision for how a business should be done right in a certain way, like your fitness, the approach to fitness. And so you have that. So you're helping people that are part of that community, right? How do you do that everywhere? Like, what do you do? And franchising offers a great opportunity for any entrepreneur to say, I have a way to scale this idea that shares the opportunity that I've felt the last 12 years, right, running this with others. So now not only are you, finding a way to distribute this amazing opportunity for people like me in Colorado Springs, right? Like right. I'd say, well, there's one down the road now. That's great. We see that all the time with other franchise brands. And when I interview a lot of them, I'm like, right, you need one here, So we're kind of a smaller market, but we do have quite a few.
I think too, I feel like what's unique about Mantra and what we've set up is really the processes that we have in place, and the technology that we're using and how we've set that up. Tracking, our, lead, how we generate leads, how we track our leads, how we close our sales, and really not only the wonderful part of customer service and serving others, but also the side of this is how you keep track of it. And this is how you can utilize technology. And today, now we're like going into AI too. And how do we implement that in the business, right? To keep growing and helping us with what we ultimately want to do is serve our customer, right? So if we can align our processes, if we can get our processes in place and we, which we feel like we do a good job at and we have, and how do we get new people in the studio? How do we make them feel a part of the community? How do we get them to stay? How do we retain them? All these little pieces of the business that have taken a long time to, I guess, procreate or, come about, we've been able to now feel like, okay, now I can train somebody else to use these same processes in their business. And we've created them now, right? They're all housed. And, if you're, sending out an email, or you're sending out, or we're, following up with a client, what emails go out, what time frame, how do we follow up? What's our, when do we follow up with a lead? What do we say to a lead? Like all the little tiny intricacies of a fitness business, right, is already documented and it's being done.
Yeah. The process of becoming a franchise is like polishing up, a diamond in the rough, right? And making it perfect. And then offering it to someone else to plug into. And I think that's no small, you can't understate the power of that. I don't think it exists anywhere else other than franchising. Any other similar method would be a very expensive approach to learning something,
And we've gone, I've gone through it. We've, done a software switch, 3 times. And I go from, we've moved from, Mind Body to Mariana Tech to Club Ready. And each time, the first migration of the data migration, I thought I was going to lose all my hair, right? Like it was just so stressful. And then then the second data migration, and now we have 4 studios and we're migrating to a new system, and we're doing it so we can scale, and we're doing it because with the franchisee in mind, like how do we have everything set up so that when they step in, all these processes are already in place for them. All they have to do is really focus on how am I going to run my business, right? And be there and be present versus how am I going to set this up and how am I going to create the creative process of, setting up software has been done, right? A lot of the hard work is, it's already, it's there and it's been created and the process have been established, and now they can actually focus on more of the part of just, starting to make money and enjoying their customers.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, tell us a little bit about that. I mean, so some of the things you've learned, I mean, I could tell you that obviously having a community that pays you, subscribes and stays with it for a long period of time, having folks talk about it and share it. So these are levers, right? That you said exactly. Like it's really hard. Like, how do I keep people coming back and not leaving after X period of time? Or how do I get new people on board? These are just little details that go into all that, right? And so like you've worked through all that. But tell me some of the more important things that maybe you're proud of that you saw as problems before, like that you've worked through. So like retention might be one, or getting more reviews from certain folks might be another that you've worked out and done better at. But tell me a little bit about some of the things that you think will really help them, your franchise partners, really grow and retain the business that they grow.
Yeah, well, going back to the community aspect of just, how do you hire? How do you put the people in, who are going to interact with the customer? And how do you people don't even want to know, how do you hire a trainer? Where do you find them? How do you hire a front desk? And, there's processes for that too. And that we've set up, and how we bring in new staff and how we train, that I would say that have been perfected over the years. Not perfected because staffing is always going to be is going to always be a really tough thing to do, and especially in today's market, I think it becomes more important to be aligned with what our I don't know. There's a whole a new way of making your staff and the people that work for Mantra feel like they're a part of a community too, right? It's just not our customers; it's it's people that are helping them. It's our whole team. How we go about creating that mindset within our, with staff, with people that are, on board our team.
How do they make someone special today, right? I mean, it's that simple. Everybody is in that boat, right? How do you make your franchisee feel special today?
Right.
How do you make your staff members feel special today? How do you make your customers? I mean, that's sort of a culture thing, right? Yeah. I mean, that's what I think of when I'm talking to you. is that, for everybody.
Yeah, I think that, just the whole, more transparency, open lines of communication, and, how do you do that? So it's teaching those little kind of things that took a long time. When I first started, it was more like, you do this, you do that. And I just, because I saw it in my head, I could see it. Why didn't anybody else see it? But as I've grown and as the brand has grown, it's more about letting other people come into their own too. Because people have these, I think as a manager and an owner, people have their own ability to see things. And it's a matter of just helping them develop into their own sort of grow in their own person and become their own leader. And that's what we've done with our trainers and our staff, and letting them be accountable and growing so they feel accomplished, just like our clients. So we all feel a sense of accomplishment all the time, right? But that's taken time.
I love it. That's branding, right? To me, that's the feel of mantra, right? Mantra fitness is
it's a mindset.
Right? It's a mindset. Right.
And it's an empowerment, right, to people who work for the brand, who are part of the brand, and who are clients, who are our clients and our members, that they're going to feel empowered, right? Because I believe that we all are empowered in our own way. It's just discovering it.
Yeah. So if I were to ask you, what makes, fitness is obviously a very needed type of service in our world today, right? Somehow we're still not fit, but we have lots of choices, right? As a people, but tell me a little bit about, in your world of franchising, there's other brands, obviously, that do fitness. Tell me a little bit about, kind of how you position yourself as being unique, or tell me maybe, how do you guys stay? I know that you're already innovative. You're already finding ways that you can be different and unique, but how do you stay on top of that? Is there a process that you constantly are looking at to say, how do we know we're pushing the envelope, or how do we know that our franchisees have the best of the best to offer to their customers?
For the franchisees, because sometimes I keep going back to being just, an owner of what works in the studio. Well, I think, for me, I'm a visionary. As a leader, I'm always learning, right? I'm always looking for new things to learn, and doing a lot of reading and doing a lot of research. And there's nothing, I don't judge. So any sort of creativity that I see that's happening in the market are, different ways of thinking or different ways of practicing, right? Absorbing those and then being able to give that back to my studios, and then, try it out in the different studios. So I think it's just always innovating, being innovative as a brand, improving the workout, improving the processes for the franchisees. How do we, get the most in the, with the least amount of, the most positive effect with the least amount of effort, right? Which can lead to a whole other area of how do I help a business owner run a business so that they can balance their own personal life too, right? Because you don't want to, most people aren't going to want to spend their entire life in their business. They want to have some sort of work-life balance, right? Some family balance in there where they can, make a good income and feel accomplished, but that they also have time for family and friends and doing the things that kind of nurture our bodies in a positive way. So that's important too, is that balance. And I think
a high impact, minimal effort is what, and I know that you almost think, well, that sounds like you're taking a shortcut when you first say it. And it's not really that. And I know in fitness, it definitely applies, but in business, it applies. If you can find the things every day that will make the biggest impact to achieving the goals that you have, that are the easiest to do that day, that's how you prioritize, right? And as you build momentum, then you can challenge yourself even more. And it's funny how that works. You can even do more and more challenging things later. But if you can get some early wins, and you know what makes the most impact in terms of your goals, then that's how you focus. And a business model is no different. If you're thinking about, well, how do I improve retention? Or how do I get more referrals? Or how do I get better reviews? Or how do I, acquire more customers? How do I do these things, right? It's usually the things that, you have to look at every day and say, well, let me focus on this, would be a big impact, wouldn't take as much effort. Let's start there, right? And so I thought that was brilliant what you shared. And the other part about a franchise network, even when you're emerging like this, it's very collaborative, right? And I think that it's an ongoing question that you always answer, is that we're always going to improve and evolve as technology and healthcare improves and evolves. You will too, because that's sort of how you're built. But that's how franchising is built too, for everybody to collaborate, and everybody's going to experience different things as a business owner with their customers and their community, and therefore they may find and have some new ideas. And that's one of the benefits of joining and being part of a brand. And I wanted to ask you, before we wrap things up, tell us a little bit about your expansion plans and how folks can learn more about getting involved.
Okay. Well, so we just launched the franchise. Our current expansion plans are we're licensed to sell in Florida, in Utah, and in Texas. Our preference is to start in Florida, build locally around our existing studios. The idea behind that is that we can provide that additional support. We have, locations. We have 3 locations in Florida right now. So to be able to take we have existing staff in place that are ready to start training, ready to start sharing, and being able to help our first franchisees that come on board, really working with them to get them, started and launched in the right place. So that's our idea, is to really start to grow it through the Florida market, and then, moving into Texas and Utah. So and then go from there. So we're starting small, so that we can, really focus on our clients, our first clients coming in the door.
Yeah, no. And that's one of the reasons why franchising is such a successful business model in and of itself, or I should say growth model or distribution model. And your thought process of, again, the foundation you build with your early partners, your early franchise owners, is so important. Such a great opportunity for them as well, because it gives them the opportunity to, again, be very close to your team and really be very formative, even though you've got the foundation. You've spent 12 years building it. And now you went through that process of becoming a franchise brand, which is not an easy thing, as you had said earlier. Your entire team is involved. You've taken this diamond in the rough and polished it up, so it's all ready to go. But your early partners are so important to embracing some of the ideas that you shared, which I don't know, why wouldn't you want to do what you said, right? Helping people, making money. Isn't that what we all should be getting up in the morning doing? So I think it's a great opportunity. So you're starting in those states, and you have locations in Florida and in California though, right?
Yeah. So we have 3 locations in Florida and 1 in Southern California. We're not expanding to California quite yet. We're just going to try to get our feet wet where we have the most studios, and that's on the East Coast. So, we'll build from there, and just excited. It really, more so than, I'm not really driven by money. I'm driven by other people's success. So if I can make somebody else, their life better and teach them everything that I've learned, that's success to me.
I think that's a great definition of it. If we're blessed enough to be in that position, right? To be in that give back position. And that is it. I mean, I have franchise clients, and I'll share this with you. One of the franchise CEOs shared a note from a franchisee, and it was just like how it changed their life to run this business. And I think there's no shortage of that. Like, that's a big deal. Like I said to you earlier, as a franchisor. So like, you're doing this great thing for people in your community, but now you're doing another great thing for people that want to bring that to people in their community. And I think they're both awesome. So,
and I share that too. You have someone that's like, and especially with, as you get older, I feel like I've had friends that are like, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life, and I don't know how to do it. How would I ever start a business? How would I run it? How do you do it? How do you stay competitive? How do you run 4 businesses in a highly competitive market, right? And continue to do well with them? We made it through COVID. Like, how do you do it? Well, I'd love to teach you, right? I'd love to teach you how we did that.
Yeah. You have a bigger purpose.
Of a lot of years of work, but at least I've been able to perfect it. And, at my expense of sacrificing family time and all the other things that I say I want more of now as I get older and they become more and more important. I see that, I'm in my 50s now, and I'm like, okay, family time is really important. Spending time with, friends, self-care, all those things are really important. So if I can help somebody have that too, right? And give what I've sacrificed, that's, more
That's
like
awesome.
that feeling of success that I have. So I want that for my franchisees.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I'm going to tell you, anyone listening, there's an opportunity here. It's been presented. So again, the best way to reach you would be online, I suspect. And what's the website we can share?
So you can reach us, check out our website. It's mantrafitness.com and go into our franchising page. And then reach out to me. It's my email address is Kathy@mantrafitness.com. Feel free to email me with any questions, and we'll set up a call, and would, love to discuss more and invite you in to see the studio and meet our amazing team.
Well, that sounds like a great opportunity for anyone that's in those areas. You said Florida and Utah,
Texas,
were the first.
Florida, Texas, Utah. Yeah.
Gotcha. Florida, Texas, Utah. Great areas and great opportunity. It was a pleasure to have you today, Kathy. Thanks for being on the show.
All right. Thank you. Nice to meet you.